Though we now know that the earth is round, we still have not abandoned our habit of imposing limits on ourselves. Not so much physical, but emotional. Many times we avoid high aspirations and high dreams, settling for lower ones that we know we can accomplish out of fear of failure. Today I have an adaptation on T.S. Eliot's quote, "Only those who dream too high, only those who dream too far can know just how much one can dream." Allow me to explain. I was born in May of 1999 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Lucky for me, I was the first of my siblings that my parents could afford to bear in a hospital. More fortune was directed towards me when, by the age of 5, we had all immigrated to America. Upon our arrival at America, you could be certain that at the early hours of dawn, the eyes of my brother and I would be glued to the television set as we so earnestly tried to decipher the language of Caillou and Arthur. You can be sure that the PBS station delivers some credit for my rapid progression through the Yosaph program. Going in third grade, my parents were delighted when I was selected to transfer from my base school to a level 4 academic school in Springfield Estates Elementary School. Once in Springfield Estates, assigned readings such as Night by Elie Wiesel, Animal Farm by George Orwell, and abridged form of the Odyssey gave me an intense passion for reading. Additionally, completing an entire National History Day project gave me practical skills of completing a large assignment in increments. Going on to middle school, of course the curriculum increased, but by then I'd already been adept at overcoming academic challenges. Middle school allowed me to explore many career interests. I owe my profound interest in medicine because my 7th grade science AAP teacher chose me to receive a full scholarship for a 2-week course at Thomas Jefferson High School studying infectious biological outbreaks. Additionally, my 8th grade civics AAP teacher took us to the Fairfax County Courthouse, not too far from here, to listen on real cases. At the courthouse, I saw there was an Ethiopian man. He was in custody and he couldn't talk to the judge because of a language barrier. And sitting in the courthouse, I wanted to save the day. I knew the Ethiopian language. I wanted to rise and tell everybody, I can translate for the man. I'll translate to the judge, but I wisely restrained myself. More than a potential heroic moment, this gave me raw experience at what it would be like to be a lawyer. Going on into high school, when junior year dawned upon me, my counselor had exuberantly recommended that I take the most challenging IB courses that my school offered me. However, despite I had been one of the smartest students in my school, despite that I'd been succeeding in my AAP classes, I still didn't think that I would succeed in a highly challenging environment. In essence, I was afraid to dream. I was afraid to venture out into uncharted waters. I wanted to stay within my own capabilities. So I swallowed my pride. I went to the IB coordinator's office and I asked him, what are the 6 easiest classes that I can take that will still get me the IB diploma? And then I had chosen those classes, but then speaking to a church elder, he told me that I should take the most challenging courses available to me because I shouldn't waste a highly good educational opportunity so highly coveted by many youth in my home country. He also highlighted that these challenging courses will allow me to get a high-paying job, allowing me to financially assist my siblings and my family in case they were in need in the future. So I had emailed my counselor to switch my IB math at standard level course to higher level and to switch my general anatomy elective to IB chemistry higher level part 2. So I had went from the easiest pathway to the IB diploma to a standard higher, more rigorous than the IB standard. In conclusion, this past junior year has been life-changing. One class in particular I'd like to emphasize is IB Chemistry Higher Level Part 2. In my school, this is the most feared class, and it contains the brightest students in the entire school because it's a junior and senior combined class. Walking into the class on the first day of school, I was surprised to see a large majority were minority students like myself. Seeing that there were minority students, I had asked myself, if these brightest students in my school are minority students just like me, what's preventing me from attaining the same success that they had attained? So I had changed my perception, and by the end of the year, I had an A- in that class. In addition, for the internal assessment in that class, I had received the highest grade, even higher than the seniors in the class. The internal assessment for that class was a science fair, was a lab report of a science experiment. And I entered that experiment into my local science fair and into my high school science fair. I got first place in my high school science fair, and allowing me to advance to the Fairfax County Regional Science Fair, where I got first place as well, allowing me to go on to states. And I was also receiving mostly all A's in my other 6 IB courses. And remember, this is for a student whose palpable fear of all these IB courses had driven him to the IB coordinator's office seeking the easiest classes. I was no longer doubting my potential. I wanted to exploit my potential from now on. In the beginning of the year, I'd been happy just to be at the median of the class, but then for now I want to be at the highest of the class. The chains in my brain, which were my sense of inferiority, had loosened, and I no longer wanted to venture in safe waters. I wanted to go, just like Ferdinand, I wanted to go past the edge, past my limit. I want to venture in uncharted waters. Now, in this past summer, as Dr. Horn had said, I had gone into Boy State. My school had sent me to Boy State. And when I was at Boy State, with my habit of going and aspiring very highly, I had pursued and I was elected governor of Boy State. And additionally, in my governor's school as well, I had been elected the president of my genetics class. But before these IB courses showed me how capable I am of success, I would have never thought an immigrant like me could have the most coveted position out of all 700 boys in an American Civic Association. I would have never thought I could have been president of a genome class amidst all my competitive peers. However, these IB courses showed me that I am capable. Dreams are an unquenchable thirst. If you thought my junior year classes were bold, now going into senior year, I have more ambitious dreams. In addition to my 7 IB courses, I'm also going to be taking an online AP course. Now, from a student perspective, I have advice for teachers gathered here today. Teachers should proactively identify students who may be in need of school supplies or project materials. A recent memory I have is in my chemistry class, where we were told to design a 3D model of a chemical, and I didn't have styrofoam balls, so I had to use bottle caps, I had to use toothpick and tape. And although I had managed to get a B in the project, I would have done better had I been provided the materials. In addition to material support that you can give to your students, it's also imperative you give them emotional support. Minority students may, due to their parents' busy work schedule or various circumstances, may not have parents who are there to ensure that their homework is done, that their project is not saved until the last day, that all their exams are studied for. So teachers here need to fill in the role of a parent. Teachers here need to develop personal relationships with their students on a personal level. Maybe you can make goals for your students in regards to increasing their rate of homework completion, increasing their participation in class, improving in addition to homework, improving their grades in class on a personal level. And this is most imperative in elementary school, because elementary school students, they can't procure their own incentive to succeed. Therefore, the teacher has to provide the incentive. So a minority student, although other students may be envious, a minority student may not have a parent who's going to take away their television privilege due to underperformance in school. However, although a student may not have the privilege to say, a minority student may not have the privilege to say, my mom will get mad if I don't get good grades. However, due to your effort, the student will say, oh, I want to spend a lot of time on my homework to impress my teacher, or my teacher expects a lot of me on that quiz, so I better study today. In addition, minority students may have parents who are willing and able to help them, but they may not be well acquainted with the school system. Therefore, parent-teacher conferences are more essential for minority students. Maybe you can tell them what grade level books they should be reading, what areas of improvement there are for the student. And most importantly, I believe that the greatest thing you can do for a minority student is to push them beyond their expectations. As an elementary school student, I had thought there was a tangible difference between my brain and the brains of my peers who had managed to get straight A's. I had not abandoned that mindset until high school, when I said I would perform poorly in all my IB courses. However, if my counselor had said, out of all my students, I think you would be most capable. If he had not said those few but influential words, I wouldn't have taken all the IB courses I did. I wouldn't be here before you today speaking here. Therefore, if your student has particular difficulty in math or English, push them. Push them in that area that they have difficulty. If they think this is the extent of my limits, push them until their limit. And then the student will say, oh, my limit is not here, it's actually further off in the distance. Push them again until the extent of their ability. And then they'll realize, oh, my boundary is not actually here, my boundary is further off. Push them again until that limit, and then if you keep pushing them until their boundaries, they're gonna realize that there is no boundary, that the boundary was just a self-imposed figment of their imagination. And by doing this, you're setting them up for success, not only in high school, but beyond, by showing them that there is no limit to their capabilities. Which brings us back to the quote by T.S. Eliot, only those who go too far can know just how far one can go. There are many things I'd like to take FCPS for, but one of the highlights is for showing me that there is no boundary, that if I went too far, there is no edge that I would fall off, that there are no limits to my abilities, no extent to my dreams. I have realized that it's not the inability to walk great lengths or climb great heights. However, it's the inability to dream. And I have realized this. I hope your students as well realize this. Thank you very much.